Good afternoon, everyone. I am Father of Time, and I'm just making a quick video it's easier for me to show people my issues. I believe I found a problem with Forge's custom item renderers for if you make custom models and you don't want to just hold a 2D, 16 pixel item in your hand, you can use item renderers to actually render the model in your hand. They worked perfectly fine in 1.6.4, but this upgrade to 1.7, they converted it. They used to store things by item ID, and now it's actually stored by the item itself. And what I believe that's happening is when the get item renderer is being called to find if this item has a custom renderer to use that in replace of the default one, which is that 16 pixel square block version. Um, this item class it takes the item stack and it gets an item from it, and I don't believe this item is properly mapping to the renderer. And so I'll show you what makes me believe this. So first I'll show you the behavior that I'm referring to. And so this item is properly registered. I know this for sure. I'll just prove it real quick. And so we'll go into my main plugin, and you'll see, I know this is a little messy, forgive me, but I have my proxy server set up right here, and this is all correct. It's working in every other way. I have GUIs and other things that confirm it's working. And then right here is where it's actually from that proxy server, it calls this registration. This is where my tile entities, special entities, all that stuff's called. Now, there's obviously a client and a server proxies. The client one extends off of this, so just the things that need to register on both sides are called on this side, and then things that need to be registered client side, which is what we're currently working on, are called in my server proxy. And by that, I mean client proxy. So here's the things that we're talking about specifically, register item renderers. So this is one of the things that's called, when the superclass is called, item renderers, and right here is the one I'm currently working on for demonstration's sake. So what you have to do is, if you look at this registration class, you have to pass it an item and the renderer, and all it does is put it in a map. The item is the key, the renderer is the value. Anyone who's used a whole class as or the key, it knows it's a bad idea, because the comparison when you use a get thing uses the hash code and the equals classes, or excuse me, methods to do the comparisons for. And so the hash code of anything in the whole class is just not exactly the same if you use the default, comparison. These two classes will very rarely match up. So, and then one of the things, I was trying to figure it out, what's being passed in here. So I went ahead and put in a conditional break spot. All it is basically, if this item is not null, go ahead and throw it for me. And then what I'm going to do real quick is actually run it in debug, and I'll show you how we know this is working. So, or how we know that it's catching my item and nothing else. So I'm going to run it in the debug real quick. And as soon as I log in, it's going to throw it because I'm already holding the item. And what I'll do is I'll remove the item from my hand, and then show you it won't catch it anymore, so we know it is that item that's triggering it. So we'll go into this world. I believe it's going to catch it immediately. Yep. And then, so I'll go here, and then what I'm going to do is, I've got to find that class. There's too many open. No, it's in my proxy client. There we go. Okay, so this is what's catching it right now. So I'm going to change this real quick, and we're just going to get rid of it so it doesn't, or actually, no, excuse me, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to disable it for real quick. So now we're going to let it continue, and it'll play like normal. Now you'll notice, oh, that item is the Germinator, the one I'm trying to get the renderer working for. So I'll remove it from my hand, so now I have nothing in my hand. And if we reactivate this breakpoint, it won't catch anything because there's nothing in my hand right now. So there's no item renderers trying to go off. Not to mention there's nothing on the ground or anything, because this is an empty world. So that's why no renderers are being caught. However, if I go back in and, excuse me, pick up my item, Oh, and it actually was triggered by that. Uh, because when I opened the creative menu button, so excuse me, I'll have to do that real quick. I'm going to turn this off of full screen. We'll go in, grab it, Germinator. And then now that it's in my hand, I can go back in, re-enable this, and it's going to catch it for that specific item. That's what all that was proving. So we'll enable this breakpoint, and it has already caught it. So we are right here in this breakpoint, and you'll notice if we look up here, um, this is the item stack that's being passed in. So that's this object here. There's the item and the type being passed in. So if we look at this item stack, right here it says what type of thing it is. I've looked this in. This is the item field of item stack. So all that's the type that it is item block number 69, which I'm holding a custom block. So when I looked into that, there's actually a block item class. Oh, excuse me, item block. And so if we go into here and look where this is called from, it's after the block registration is done, item registration is done, and in vanilla, and if we look into it, so as you can see, it goes through, you register all these different items, but then one of the last steps that it does is it iterates over all the blocks, and basically some of them have special classes made for them, but the ones that don't, it just generates this generic item block class with the block being passed to it. So my custom block has had that same thing happen to it. It passes in an item block, and it throws that in as its argument, and so that's that. So one of the things you'll notice, though, is it takes that object block and it throws it into the item registry. So that's important to note. So add object, and it's adding our item block to the overall item registry. So this is where it's confusing, because if we go back into the proxy client, I was wondering if maybe it's the way that this looks up the item. If it's not, this item won't compare or equal the one in the map. But what's crazy is so I'm registering it, right? I throw this as the argument. Well, if we look at what this grabs, it grabs this get item by ID here, which if we look into that, it's pulling it from the item registry. So the one that I'm sending in to register my item renderer with is the exact same one that it is registering during compile. So they should match. They really should. Now, if we go back into the item or right here, register item, or actually yeah. If I let this catch point keep playing, in fact, I'll do that right now. All right, so here we are. So I'm going to move forward. So we've now done this call already. We said custom item renderers.get item. So that's that method we were just looking at. And notice after it did that, this is that renderer variable that it's up above. It is null. So it did not find it. This .get did not, with the item being passed in from the item stack, does not match the one that I use for registry, which I'm using the one that it uses at the time of when it compiles everything. So it should match it. Something's wrong here, I feel, unless somebody else sees a solution to the issue that I've found. But I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because I don't believe this to be proper behavior. The way I'm registering my item renderer looks to be the intended way. So please, if anyone has feedback on this, I would really appreciate it. And other than that, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to look into this issue, and I hope you have a great day.